Welcome to the Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris. Mr. President, you need to become Catholic, and you need to convert now. About 4 years ago, Church Militant produced a Vortex in the heat of the 2016 campaign, where we compared Donald Trump to Constantine. Constantine, of course, was the eventual sole emperor who defeated Maxentius at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge just north of central Rome on October 28th, 312 AD, which happens to be the same week as this year's election. The victory paved the way for Christianity to be freed from the persecutions and eventually become the religion of the Roman Empire. Contemporary historical accounts of the battle note that the night before the resounding and somewhat unexpected victory, Constantine received a vision where he was told if he would paint the Kairos on his soldiers' shields and breastplates, victory would be his. Kairos are the first two letters in the Greek alphabet of our Lord's title, Christ. The accompanying message was, "In this sign you shall conquer, in hoc signo vinces." Even though there are some points of discrepancy in the two major historical accounts, that's the blended summation, and it makes the point. Constantine's victory required an act of faith from him and was promised by heaven if he obeyed. When Constantine marched on Rome, it was anybody's guess who would win that battle. Maxentius had already successfully fended off 2 attempts by others to take his throne and was well prepared to defend it a 3rd time. Had Maxentius won the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, there's no telling what the fate of the church would have been, or eventually Western civilization. Yes, the battle was that important. Everything hung in the balance. Fast forward 1700 years. Another Constantine is bearing down on the capital of the empire, and a ferocious force intent on defending and advancing the depravity of its own worldview is primed to wipe him out. Like the first Constantine, he too is already emperor, so to speak, and battling another emperor, a modern-day Maxentius, just as entrenched and claiming the same authority. Constantine had come to clear the swamp and faced a loathsome imperial deep state. The most important woman in Constantine's life, the eventual Saint Helena, had converted to Catholicism and would later travel to Jerusalem and discover the true cross, Golgotha, and many of the treasures of the redemption, and bring them back and establish them in Rome. Constantine was no doubt at least passingly familiar with Christianity. It had been around for almost 300 years at that point, although still illegal, at least officially. So when Christ appeared to him before the battle, the person of our Lord was probably not completely unfamiliar to Constantine, although a heavenly vision is still a heavenly vision. He certainly would have heard much of Christ and the Christians, especially since his mom was. What brought about the victory was Constantine corresponding to a grace given him, which he could have accepted or rejected. He accepted. He also converted to Catholicism personally, which brings us to our point. Mr. President, convert to the Catholic Church. It's the church, the only church, because there is only one church, founded by Christ, the same Christ who promised victory to Constantine, who used his victory to restore order to the empire and free the church, which set in motion events which would lead to the establishment of Western civilization. Today, Western civilization needs Constantine to reappear, but Constantine needs to accept the grace given to him and correspond to it. First, a conversion to Catholicism, which in some ways you have already begun, would create a Catholic versus Catholic November matchup, and you would be able to meet Biden on the Milvian Bridge and wipe him out, claimant to claimant, and call him out for his phony Catholicism and claim to the faith. Biden has no claim on the faith beyond his baptismal certificate. He's not only a traitor to his country, as his politics reveal, but precipitated that treason with, first, treachery against the faith. Second, a conversion to Catholicism would contextualize the election for what it really is, a great spiritual battle, the effects of which will be felt long after the vote counting has stopped. To that end, if you were to adopt a sign like Constantine did, a sign of victory, it would also draw the teeth of hell against you even more than now, so that heaven would grant an outpouring of grace to counterbalance the evil which would mount against you. And since statues are so omnipresent in the news these days, Establish the statue showing the ongoing battle between light and darkness, the eventual winner. Put up a statue of St. Michael the Archangel, one like we have here in our studio, as a reminder to the infernal beast of his final lot. We understand our First Lady prays the Rosary. Pray it with her. Pray with your First Lady to Our Lady. She will guide you to the fullness of truth, for she is the mother of truth and desires that all come to her divine Son. Now, all of this might seem a tad strange, Mr. President, although we suspect not entirely so. Every now and then, you say something here and there which indicates grace is fast at work. We firmly believe it is this movement of grace which has arrayed the powers of hell against you. And speaking of powers arrayed against you, you are already more Catholic than most of the U.S. bishops. Admittedly, that's a pretty low bar, but it's still true. Most importantly, Mr. President, you are a man of goodwill, a man who wants to follow the truth wherever it leads. Your past doesn't matter. Every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future. Church Militant has been saying for 4 years now that you won in 16 because the Queen of Heaven picked you to play an important role in revealing and exposing the depth of evil in the nation. You have done that, and you need to keep doing it. But at this point, the pitch of battle is so fierce that you now need to return the favor, so to speak, and draw down the additional graces which come from conversion, a turning to and embracing of the fullness of truth. You need to ready your soul, personally and professionally, for the coming onslaught. America is the last domino to fall, the last great hope of the world, even with all her many errors and evils, which in a second term you must set about to undo as best you can. All the violence and blasphemy and destruction present in the streets are demons feeling or sensing they have almost achieved complete victory. Just one more final push, and the world can be plunged into a hellish darkness. Heaven chose you, Mr. President, as unlikely as many think that is. Heaven chose you, now you must choose heaven. You need to receive our blessed Lord's body and blood in Holy Communion. As the possessed crowds kneel to the politically correct gods of the modern empire, you must kneel to the Queen of Heaven and her divine Son. Embrace the fullness of the faith, Mr. President, even if you don't understand it fully. You don't need to understand it fully. You need only understand it sufficiently. No one understands God fully. Constantine didn't, yet he was given victory so that heaven could use him to create a new world, a world which has fallen to you to now preserve. The Lord of heaven and earth is also the Lord of history, and the moment of history has now arrived, Mr. President, at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Put up a statue of St. Michael in the White House and convert to the Catholic faith. Then go into battle and behold the power of God. God love you. I'm Michael Voris.